Chapter 10. Who will go into the stable? Jill felt something tickling her ear. It was Jewel the unicorn, whispering to her with the wide whisper of a horse's mouth. As soon as she heard what he was saying, she nodded and tiptoed back to where Puzzle was standing. Quickly and quietly, she cut the last cords that bound the lion skin to him. It wouldn't do for him to be caught with that on after what the ape had said. She would have liked to have hidden the skin somewhere very far away, but it was too heavy. The best she could do was kick it in among the thickest bushes. Then she made signs to Puzzle to follow her, and they both joined the others. The ape was speaking again.
And after a horrid thing like that, Tashland is angrier than ever. He says he's been a great deal too good to you, coming out every night to be looked at. See? Well, he's not coming out anymore.
Howls and mewings and squeals and grunts were the animal's answers to this, but suddenly a quite different voice broke in with a loud laugh.
Hark what the monkey says, it shouted. We know why he isn't going to bring out his precious Aslan, and I'll tell you why, because he hasn't got him. He never had anything except an old donkey with a lion skin on its back. Now he's lost that, doesn't know what to do.
Tiernan could not see the face of the other side of the fire very well, but guessed this was Griffle, the chief dwarf. And he was quite certain of it when a second later all the dwarfs' voices joined in singing,
Don't you know what to do? Don't you know what to do? Don't you know what to do? Ooh, 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 ooh.
Silence! Thundered Rishta Tarkan.
Silence, children of mud! Listen to me, you other Narnians, lest I give command to my warriors to fall upon you with the edge of the sword. The Lord Shift has already told you that the wicked ass. Do you think because of him that there is no real Tashland in the stable? Do you? Beware. Beware.
No, no, shouted most of the crowd.
But the dwarf said, That's all right, you got it. Come on, show us what's in the stable. Seeing is believing.
When next there was a moment's quiet, the ape said,
You dwarfs think you're really clever, don't you? But not so fast. I never said you couldn't see Tashland. Anyone who likes can see him.
The whole assembly suddenly became silent. Then, after nearly a minute, the bear began in a slow, puzzled voice. I don't quite understand all of this, it grumbled.
I thought you said. You thought, repeated the ape. As if anyone could call what goes on your head thinking. Listen, you others, anyone can see Tashland, but he's not coming out. You have to go in and see him.
Oh, thank you, said dozens of voices. That's what we wanted. We can go in and see him face to face, and now he'll be kind, and it will be as it used to be. And the birds chattered, and the dogs barked excitedly, and suddenly there was a great stirring and a noise of creatures rising to their feet. And in a second, the whole lot of them would have been rushing forward and trying to crowd into the stable door all together, but the ape shouted,
Get back, quick! Not so fast!
The beasts stopped, many of them with one paw in the air, many of them with tails wagging, and all of them with heads on one side. I thought you said, began the bear, but Shift interrupted.
Anyone can go in, he said, but one at a time. Who will go first? He didn't say he was feeling very kind. He's been licking his lips a lot since he swallowed up that wicked king the other night. He's been growling a good deal this morning. I wouldn't much like to go into that stable myself tonight, but just as you please. So who wants to go in first? Don't blame me if he swallows you whole or blasts you into a cinder with a mere tear of his eyes. That's your affair. Now then, who's first? What about one of you dwarfs? Tilly, come and be killed, sneered Griffle. How do we know what you've got in there? Ho ho, cried the ape. So you're beginning to think there's something in there, huh? Well, all you beasts were making noise enough a minute ago. What struck you all dumb? Who's going in first?
But the beasts all stood, looking at one another, and began backing away from the stable. Very few tails were wagging now. The ape waddled to and fro, jeering at him.
Ho ho ho! He chuckled. I thought you were all so eager to see Tash Lamb face to face. Changed your mind, huh?
Tyrion bent his head to hear something that Jill was trying to whisper in his ear.
What do you think is really inside that stable?
She said.
Who knows, said Tyrion. 2 Caelermenes with drawn swords, as likely as not, one on each side of the door. You don't think, said Jill, it might be, that horrible thing we saw?
Tash himself? Whispered Tyrion. There is no knowing. But courage, child. We are all between the paws of the true Aslan. Then a most surprising thing happened. Ginger the cat said in a cool, clear voice, not at all as if he was excited, I'll go in, if you'd like. Every creature turned and fixed its eyes on the cat.
Mark their subtleties, sire, said Poggin to the king. This cursed cat is in the plot, in the very center of it. Whatever's in the stable will not hurt him, I'll be bound. Then Ginger will come out again and say that he has seen some wonder.
But Tyrion had no time to answer him. The ape was calling the cat to come forward.
Ho ho, said the ape. So you, a pert puss, would look upon it face to face. Well, come on then, puss. I'll open the door for you. Don't blame me if he scares the whiskers off your face. Hey, that's your affair.
The cat got up and came out of his place in the crowd, walking primly and daintily with his tail in the air, not one hair on its sleek coat out of place. It came on till it had passed the fire, and was so close to Tyrion from where he stood with his shoulder against the end wall of the stable he could look right into its face. Its big green eyes never blinked.
Cool as a cucumber, muttered Eustace. It knows it has nothing to fear.
The ape, chuckling and making faces, shuffled across beside the cat, put up his paw, drew the bolt, opened the door. Tyrion thought he could hear the cat purring as it walked into the dark doorway.
The most horrible caterwaul you ever heard made everyone jump.
You've been awakened yourself by cats quarreling or making love on the roof in the middle of the night. You know the sound. This was worse. The ape was knocked head over heels by Ginger, coming back out of the stable at top speed. If you had not known he was a cat, you might have thought he was a ginger-colored streak of lightning. He shot across the open grass, back into the crowd. No one wants to meet a cat in that state. You could see the animals getting out of his way to the left and to the right. He dashed up a tree, whisked round, and hung head downward. His tail was bristled out till it was nearly as thick as his whole body. His eyes were like saucers of green fire. Along his back, every single hair stood on end.
I'd give my beard, whispered Poggin, to know whether that brute is only acting or whether it's really found something in there that frightened it.
Peace, friend, said Tyrion, for the captain and the ape were also whispering, and he wanted to hear what they said. He did not succeed, except he heard the ape once more whimpering,
Oh, my head, my head.
But he got the idea those two were almost as puzzled by the cat's behavior as himself.
Now, Ginger, said the captain, enough of that noise. Tell them what thou hast seen. Screamed the cat. Art thou not called a talking beast? Said the captain. Then hold thy devilish noise and talk.
What followed was rather horrible. Tyrion felt quite certain, and so did the others, that the cat was trying to say something. But nothing was coming out of its mouth, except the ordinary, ugly cat noises you might hear from any angry or old frightened Tom in a backyard in England. The longer he caterwauled, the less like a talking beast he looked. Uneasy whimperings and little sharp squeals broke out from among the other animals. "Look, look," said the voice of the bear. "It can't talk. It's forgotten how to talk. It's gone back to being a dumb beast. Look at its face." Everyone saw it was true. And then the greatest terror of all fell upon those Narnians. For every one of them had been taught, when only a chick, or a puppy, or a cub, how Aslan at the beginning of the world had turned the beasts of Narnia into talking beasts, and warned them that if they weren't good, they might one day be turned back again, and be like the poor witless creatures one meets in other countries. "And now it's coming upon us," they moaned. "Mercy! Mercy!" wailed the beast. "Spare us, lordship! Stand between us and Aslan! You must always go in and speak to him for us! We daren't! We daren't!" Ginger disappeared further up the tree. No one ever saw him again. Tyrion stood with his hand on his sword hilt and his head bowed. He was dazed with the horrors of that night. Sometimes he thought it would be best to draw his sword at once and rush upon the Caelermenes. The next moment he thought it would be better to wait and see what new affairs might take. And now a new turn came. "My father," came a clear, ringing voice from the left of the crowd. Tyrion knew at once it was one of the Caelermenes speaking. For in the Tisrock's army, the common soldiers call their officers "my master," but the officers call their senior officers "my father." Jill and Eustace didn't know this, but looking this way and that, they saw the speaker, for of course people at the sides of the crowd were easier to see than people in the middle, where the glare of the fire made all beyond it look rather black. He was young, tall, slender, and even rather beautiful in the dark, haughty Caelermene way. "My father," he said to the captain, "I also desire to go in." "Peace, Emeth," said the captain. "Who called thee to counsel? Does it become a boy to speak?" "My father," said Emeth, "truly I am younger than thou. Yet I also am of the blood of the Tarkans, even as thou art. And I also am the servant of Tash. Therefore—" "Silence!" said Rishta Tarkan. "Am I not thy captain? Thou hast nothing to do with this stable. It is for the Narnians." "Nay, my father," answered Emeth. "Thou hast said that their Aslan and our Tash are all one. And if that is the truth, then Tash himself is in yonder. And how then thou sayest that I have nothing to do with him? For gladly would I die 1,000 deaths if I might look once on the face of Tash." "Thou art a fool and understandest nothing," said Rishta Tarkan. "These be high matters." Emeth's face grew sterner. "Is it not then true that Tash and Aslan are all one? Or has the ape lied to us?" "Of course they're all one," said the ape. "Swear it, ape," said Emeth. Oh, dear," whispered Shift. "I wish you would all stop bothering. My head does ache. Yes, I swear it. "Then, my father," said Emeth, "I am utterly determined to go in." "Fool!" began Rishta Tarkan. But at once the dwarfs began shouting, Come along! Why don't you let him in? Why, you let Narnians in and you keep your own people out? What have you got in there you don't want your own men to meet?" Tyrion and his friends could only see the back of Rishta Tarkhan, so they never knew what his face looked like as he shrugged his shoulders and said, "Bear witness all that I am guiltless of this young fool's blood. Get thee in, rash boy, and make haste." Then, just as Ginger had done, Ymith came walking forward into the open strip of grass between the bonfire and the stable. His eyes were shining. His face, very solemn. His hand was on his sword hilt, and he carried his head high. Jill felt like crying when she looked into his face. And Jewel whispered in the king's ear, "By the lion's mane, I almost love this young warrior, Caelerman though he be. He is worthy of a better god than Tash." "I do wish we know what was really inside there," said Eustace. Ymith opened the door and went into the black mouth of the stable. He closed the door behind him. Only a few moments passed, but it seemed longer before the door opened again. A figure in Caelermene armor reeled out, fell on its back, and lay still. The door closed behind it. The captain leaped toward it, bent down to stare at its face. He gave a start of surprise. He recovered himself, and turned to the crowd, crying out, "The rash boy has had his will. He has looked upon Tash and is dead. Take warning, all of you." "Oh, we will," said the poor beasts. But Tyrion and his friends stared first at the dead Caelermene, and then at one another. For they, being so close, could see what the crowd, being further off and behind the fire, could not see, that this dead man was not Ymith. He was quite different, an older man, thicker, not so tall, with a big beard. "Ha ha ha ha!" chuckled the ape. "Any more? Anyone else want to go in? Well, you're all shy. I choose next. Hey, you, boar. Or you, come here. Drive him up, Caelermenes. He shall see Tash land face to face." "Ruff," grunted the boar, rising heavily to his feet. "Come on, then. Try my tusks." When Tyrion saw that the brave beast was getting ready to fight for his life, and Caelermene's soldiers beginning to close in on him with their drawn scimitars, and no one was going to help, something seemed to burst inside of him. He no longer cared if this was the best moment to interfere or not. "Swords out," he whispered to the others. "Arrow on string, follow." The next moment, the astonished Narnian saw 7 figures leap forth in front of the stable, 4 of them in shining mail. The king's sword flashed in the firelight as he waved it above his head and cried in a great voice, "Here stands I, Tyrion of Narnia, in Aslan's name, to prove with my body that Tash is a foul fiend, the ape a manifold traitor, and these Caelermenes worthy of death. To my side, all true Narnians! Would you wait till your new masters have you killed all one by one?" And that's the end of chapter 10. I almost don't know where to begin. Something is in that stable. And it's something that's far beyond the plots and the schemes of an ape or a Tarkhan or a ginger cat. And we've now seen the ultimate consequence where whatever plot they had cooked up to have Ginger sneak in and then tell people what it was like has actually resulted in that ultimate consequence for a talking beast. Now, just another dumb animal. That which made a Narnian a Narnian. That which made them almost human, different, full and real, and now it's all gone. Too clever by half was Ginger, probably at the center of this plan, and now dealing with its greatest of consequences. And then a noble young Caelermene, bold, brave, devoted, faithful. I suppose he's a sworn enemy of Narnia, but you have to kind of respect this kid. You have to consider a devotion and a faith, something like that, to be respected and honored. And now, as everything is just falling to pieces, and I get the impression that it's a free-for-all about to start, well, there's no more talk of waiting for the right time or the right moment. Tyrion knows we take our stand now, no matter what. So with faith, not in their abilities or in the outcome, but only faith that they remain in the paws of Aslan, as we remain within the very palms of God. May the world bring what it may, but here we will stand.